Going on YouTube, Cloverbuzz here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be looking at what I think are the 10 best archetypes to use right now in competitive Regulation D format for, of course, Pokemon VGC. So basically, we're at the point right now in Regulation D where, again, people are prepping for the upcoming World Championships. People are, also prepping for, more online tours, more premier challenges. Not just simply ladder, right? And from here you have to kind of make a decision on, like, maybe what kind of team do I want to use and personalize for myself, because with a lot of new Pokemon and coming from home, there have been a lot of new additions, and because of that there's been a lot of different archetypes that have been available, and I have about 10 of them here that I think have the best results right now to be able to make this claim that they are within the top 10, right? Are there some that, could be in here? Yes, and we may discuss them a little bit at the end, but right now, as far as like results wise, these are the best 10 archetypes to use. So we'll go through each one of them, we'll explain how they work. These are pretty much open team sheet teams. We're not really going to go so much into the EV spreads, of course, but just explain the general concept as to how they might work. And then from there, maybe it's just an idea that you might pick up and use yourself. So this way you can get the team that you need for the Regulation D format for whatever it is that you need it for. All right, so let's start with our first team. All right, we always have to start with something like this. So of course we're going to start with the hyper offensive Tailwind offensive teams, with Dragonite, Chenpao, Tornadus, and Urshifu, right? So basically the whole idea with this team is you're utilizing the speed control from the Tornadus, one of the new additions to Pokemon Home, able to click Tailwind. And now you also have Rain Dance. And what that does is now it makes your Urshifu, which is also on the team, do extra damage. And with the Mystic Water bulky adamant set, it can do a lot of different, it can pick up a lot of different KOs, right? And then from here, Dragonite, Chenpao, we already know what these things can do. Of course, Chenpao boosting the damage from, coming from the Urshifu and the Dragonite, because, you're lowering defenses. And then I call these the priority trio, right? Because you have Aqua Jet here, you have Extreme Speed here, and then you have Sucker Punch here. So, even if teams want to flip Trick Room on you, it's okay, because one, you can always just remove Psychic Terrain with Ice Spinner from the Indeedee, and then two, you have priority moves anyway, so you don't really care too much about Trick Room because you get to go first. So, in that sense, you can play against teams that way. And they also like to utilize Substitute on either like their Fluttermane or Heatran if they do have it. This one has it, so good team building here. I believe this is like Jalen's team, right? So this is Substitute, Fluttermane here. And then, of course, we already know what Dragonite can do with its coverage moves with the Choice Band set. Able to put on a lot of pressure with, Extreme Speed, Iron Head, good coverage for Fluttermane. Outrage, just a straight up big nuke. And then Stopping Tantrum, good ground coverage, which, a lot of meta Pokemon in this format, they don't have... they're weak to ground types, right? So it's always important to have like maybe ground resist or ground immunity. And Dragonite can really put pressure on those teams that don't have it. But the real difference maker is in this slot, because we already know Fluttermane is coming to a lot of these teams because, it's a very hyper aggressive mod. It fits the archetype. But what really helps here is just to have the glue, as I say. And Iron Hands is really kind of that idea where you have this glue. You have a Fake Out Mon, which is actually really nice. It helps installing out Trick Room turns. I used to use Rillaboom Fake Out with like Substitute Fluttermane to be able to do that as well. So this is almost a similar idea. It's bulky. It gives, pivot potential with Volt Switch, so you can reposition on an archetype that otherwise doesn't really have a whole lot of it, just because it's just, you're leading your offensive options. Not too much room for switching. You just, hit. But, Iron Hands can kind of give you that option to be able to use Volt Switch and get out of there. Because other than that, it's just like, very rarely will you make like some of these switches, but overall Iron Hands is just great into a lot of the meta. Wild Charge is good into, of course, Urshifu, and then Drain Punch good against, things that are weak to fighting, the Iron Bundle, Ursalunas, and that matter, right? So you can also pressure those Rain teams that are running around, the Basculegion stuff with Pelipper. All right, Heatran also doesn't want to be taking Drain Punch, but overall, again, a very hyper aggressive team, just meant to deal out a lot of damage. Good speed control with the Tornadus with Tailwind, and as well as taunt to, neuter other teams' setup, like Cresselia, for example. If they don't have a mental up, you can taunt the Trick Room, taunt other setup plays, taunt the Goodra from setting up, the shelter boost. But overall, again, just very hard hitting teams. Typical leads here: Dragonite, Chenpao, a lot of offense. Urshifu, Tornadus, Urshifu, Chenpao. Also very, very good offense. Trick Room leads, you can do Iron Hands, Flutter Mane, substitute and just, be a Trick Room sweeper with the Iron Hands. Keep pivoting your fake outs, of course. But overall, that's usually how this team kind of plays. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, next up is Basculegion Rain teams, and this is a pretty strong team. I believe this is Devin's team. Team Spirit from Victory Road. He used this, and I always like to say with these Basculegion Rain teams, the first four is your core, right? I've seen a lot of different teams where, like, again, you have these first four, and then these last two are your flex slots, right? When we made our Basculegion team for our viewer for the tournament, we slapped on Dragonite Chenpao, right? Because with Dragonite Chenpao, you're helping also Basculegion do a little bit more damage, and then it's just another oppressive mode to the team, right? But now what this is saying is, again, you have Basculegion and Pelipper, okay? The Rain will make Basculegion outspeed. It's your hyper offensive mode. You're dealing a lot of damage, especially with Rave Crash and Aqua Jet. But it's also a very, very good late game cleaner with last respects, because, with every fallen ally, you get an increase in base damage, like plus 50 is quite a bit. So yeah, and then over here, of course, again, here's your speed control mod, just like Tornadus. You have Tailwind, right? And then Thundurus is a very, very good Pokemon in these type of teams, and really it has that niche in this format. And I don't really see it a whole lot in like other types of teams. I feel like this is the best kind of team, at least right now, to try and use it. But Volt Absorb is very, very important, to be able to support the Pelipper and Basculegion, right? Because think about Iron Hands, think about Alecki, think about Flutter Rain, Thunderbolts. These are all things that can pressure the Pelipper and Basculegion, and then just being able to time in a Volt Absorb is really nice. And then at the same time, specs Wild Bolt Storm with Rain from Pelipper. You get a chance to, inflict paralysis, which is actually really, really strong and dangerous, right? Grass Knot is really good, into the mirror, as well as into like Ursaluna, as well as into Urshifu, really, really good there. And Terra Blast, Terra Flying is also, great into stuff like Amoonguss, for example, right? It can just really, really run through it. Then over here, you have like the defensive backbone, right? The defensive, less hyper-offensive teams, less hyper-offensive part of the squad, Hisuian-Goodra, and, well, here's also the Flyman, which is also kind of like aggressive here, but like, again, just to slow the game down, you can use Amoonguss and Goodra. You can Spore in Trick Room. You can heal your allies with, of course, Pollen Puff. So now you're also the cleric of the team. Rocky Helmet's really good against some of these other physical options. But the whole idea is now maybe play in game 2 and game 3 of your match, and instead of going with like the lead and with the rain mode, you can go with the slow routes and try and go for the Goodra setup plays. If they don't have taunt and they can't really stop you, then you can just pretty much go from there, right? So Sap Sipper also really good. These two things, especially Basculegion, weak to grass moves like Rillaboom. If you can time in a Goodra switch into that, and then you're just able to take that as well. And then of course in Trick Room against like Amoonguss stuff, you can also time that in to be able to soak that up as well. And then Flutter Mane, even though you have two repeated ghost types here, they're two fundamentally different Pokemon, of course. This being a special attacker, this being a physical attacker. So, overall, a very, very solid aggressive team. And again, usually aggressive teams like to have like multiple modes, and this is another one of them, right? So I'm glad to see, Goodra on this type of squad. So shout outs to Devin. Great job there. And if this is something you're interested in, definitely pick it up. It's a really fun team. Next up, we have the Cresselia Ursaluna archetype, and this is a match made in heaven. Ursaluna couldn't have asked for a better partner in a competitive Pokemon format, because Cresselia really, really, especially like with Ally Switch, man, it just helps so much on a team like this, and it really just makes and forces the opponent to play the guessing game a lot of times, and if they get it wrong, they just lose, right? Now, I understand Ally Switch got nerfed this generation, of course, but it's just the fact that it's there and can be clicked can sort of make the opponent, click suboptimal plays. But that aside, again, with Ursaluna now, you want the Trick Room. Here's a bulky Trick Room setter. You need healing. You're taking Flame Morph Chip every turn. Cresselia's got that with Lunar Blessing. And then at the same time, again, like I said, there's always Ally Switch there, right? And then from here, it's just like a balance core with like Urshifu, Heatran, right? Again, with the Sash Urshifu, you're able to, stay on the field, just deal a bunch of damage against a lot of different things. Heatran also comes into some of those other Tailwind Trick Room teams. You can click sub, hide behind the sub. You're already very bulky, so sometimes it might be hard to break the sub. And then from there, just click Heat Waves, Terra Blast, whatever it is. I believe this is Kosukide's team. It was like second place in VR, if I remember. And then Specs Fluttermane just does so much damage, of course. It's able to come in and just pressure teams immediately. Iron Hands, really, really good on Cresselia, Ursaluna teams. In fact, I'm going to put Iron Hands over here. Right? Oh, I kind of messed that up. So let me put that over here. And then let me put the Ursaluna over here. Yeah, this makes more sense. So basically, again, with Iron Hands, Fake Out plus Trick Room is really, really good. And then at the same time, you also put out pressure in Trick Room because you're another strong physical attacker, right? It's just like, again, it's the glue that holds the format together, in my opinion, right? But then from here, like, again, we already know what Ursaluna can do after, like, Flame Orb boost. Your job is to sweep in Trick Room with these two guys, and Cresselia supports, whereas these two, they come into very matchup-specific things, and then Fluttermane also can just come in the back, or even come in as a lead. You know, Iron Hands Fluttermane is also really good. Just click Fake Out, click some big nuke, and then, you know, just go from there. Maybe have an endgame Trick Room with Cresselia and Ursaluna, right? So, you know, that's all about it is with this team. You know, again, it's a very, very strong Trick Room team with already proven results. Cresselia, Ursaluna, one of my favorite duos in Regulation D. All right, we've got another Tailwind team, and, you know, a lot of these teams, they always have, like, Tailwind users, and it makes a lot of sense. The format is very fast, it's very aggressive, so you got to play it that way. And this is a Regidrago team. So Regidrago, you know, didn't quite get its shine in Sword and Shield because of Dynamax and because of Zacian. But now that there's no more Dynamax, you're able to pick up a lot of KOs, and there's no Zacian yet. So this is as good of a shot that Regidrago has had in being competitively viable, and it has been. It had some solid results. You know, Dragon Energy is a lot of pressure. The only thing that can really take this is, you know, an opposing Fluttermane, which is immune, or like Terra Steel swaps. But like Dragon Fang, Dragon Energy just hits so hard. And then, you know, with the Tailwind from the Tornadus, you're able to outspeed things and be able to get these off. So that's also really good. If when put into the face of a Fluttermane, you have the option to go for Terra Steel, Terra Blast. So that's the other benefit of Terrestrialization. Then from here, you know, just Rain Dance and Icy Wind, good speed control and good damage boosting for your own Urshifu Rapid Strike. And again, this is an adamant bulky water set. But the real selling point, honestly, is the Indeedee on teams like this. I like Regidrago Tornadus teams with Indeedee just because, you know, another way to really beat, you know, these Tailwind hyper-offensive teams is to click your priority moves, right? Because just like Trick Room, if you have priority moves, you pretty much just don't care that there's Trick Room or Tailwind, right? Now, that being said, you know, one way to really beat Regidrago is to click priority moves against it, click Extreme Speed, Sucker Punch, whatever it is. So this way, this Dragon Energy is not doing as much damage. But a timely Indeedee swap in to summon the Psychic Surge to deny those priority moves can really just change the game entirely, you know, from turn 1, if you're able to do that, all right? And then you also get a Trick Room mode to the team where, like, if you're playing the mirror, you can just click Indeedee Trick Room, and now you are having the speed control on your side. Helping Hand with Dragon Energy it hits like a truck. You can also protect the Regidrago by just clicking Follow Me. Rocky Helmet is a great option here. I really like this team. Whoever did it was I don't remember off the top of my head where I got it from, but it's a very strong aggressive team. And then you just have like Urshifu Heatran again, like your balance options that are very strong in Tailwind. And this is a, you know, a Life Orb Heatran, you know, with Heat Wave, Flash Cannon, Earth Power, and then here's the Surging Strikes here from, of course, the Urshifu, just beating a lot of slots here. But again, another cool archetype. If you want to use Regidrago, definitely give this one a go. I had fun with it, you know, in some of the games that I was using against, you know, well, not against it, but using it, all right? But yeah, let's move on to the next archetype. Next up is Hisuian-Goodra and Grimmsnarl screens. So, you know, again, with Goodra, we just talked about it in that team with Devin in the Basculegion Rain team, but this is like specifically the main engine for this squad. This is the Goodra team. It's meant and built around it to support it, right? And the whole idea is, again, put it in position where the Goodra is just unkillable and just able to click these shelter body press plays and then, you know, just go from there, right? Heavy Slam is great against opposing Fluttermanes, and then body press, when you get to +6, can just one-shot a lot of different things that don't resist. But what really makes a lot of this work is the support mons on the team, like Grimmsnarl being able to click screens, so this way, you know, Reflect and Light Screen can help make Goodra unkillable. Taunt is really good at potential setup plays, you know, and it's also immune to like Tornadus Prankster stuff, right? Or Tornadus taunts because you're a dark type. But the two selling points here is like the Gastrodon and the Hisuian Arcanine, right? Because again, with Arcanine, now you get Intimidate support. So again, you're neutering more damage against this squad. And then you just have like strong base 150 moves here. You know, Flare Blitz, Rock Slide, E-Speed, another priority move. Very, very good. And then from here, this Goodra is, of course, Sap Sipper. Again, great against helping out the Gastrodon here, you know, because Gastrodon being weak to the Rillaboom slot. But Gastrodon is another Pokemon that is on the rise in this format. It's great into Urshifu. It's great support with Yawn, Earth Power, Ice Beam. This is a very, very good team with Hisuian-Goodra. Like, I really like Yawn on Gastrodon. Just really forces opponents out of position. It's just such a good move, right? And then, of course, Rillaboom here to round out your Fire Order Grass Core. Fake Out plus Shelter, Fake Out plus something is always going to be very, very good. And then Flutter Mane, Choice Specs, nothing else needs to be said. Ton of damage, right? Easy cleanup in the end game when, you know, Hisuian-Goodra and some of these guys have done their job, right? So I like it a lot. So if you want to use Hisuian-Goodra, I definitely recommend a team like this. There's also like teams with Goodra, Grimmsnarl, and like Galarian-Moltres. That's also really nice. But this team has had it's on the rise right now. It's had some good results, and I really like it at the moment. So definitely use this one if you want to try and use Goodra. Next up, the opposite of Tailwind offense, we have the Heart Trick Room teams, and this team has been going around pretty much every single day. It's a very, it's a very classic Trick Room core, right? And the main four is, of course, Indeedee, Hatterene, Torkoal, plus some physical sweeper, right? But now you add options like Armarouge here, and Armarouge is much better in Regulation D than it was in Regulation C, simply because there's less Ruined Pokemon around, there's not as much Tinglu, and then from there, you can just, put on a whole bunch of pressure, with the Armarouge, especially if this was like Life Orb, but it's not. I think it's on this thing. Yeah, okay, there we go. But Psychic Seeds just makes it a little bit more bulky, but really, you'll see a variance in these sets, but you'll see the same 6, and that's fine, right? Because it still functions within the Hard Trick Room archetype, right? So typically, Indeedee comes with either Hatterene or Armarouge. You set up Trick Room, then from there, you just deal a bunch of damage, exert all that pressure. Terrain Boosted Expanding Force hits very hard. Life Orb, Dazzling Gleam hits very hard. And then Torkoal comes in, hits very hard. I did notice something here. Wait. Oh, no. This is the... Oh, yeah, this is good against Amoonguss. So, yeah. I mean, Clear Smog, that's also useful against, like, Goodra and then, like, Dondozo. So, nice tech move there. And then, of course, after you Eruption plays, there's multiple modes to this team, which is why it's kind of hard to play against, because you're not sure if they're going to go for, like, the Hisuian Lilligant Torkoal stuff, or like Indeedee plus Trick Room Sweeper kind of thing, right? And then Ursaluna kind of fits this archetype too. Just have a strong physical sweeper in the back, just do its thing. The other thing is you might even see Glastrier here, which is what we did. Yeah, this is very, very standard. And if you want to just have something that's somewhat relatively linear, that's pretty easy to pilot, definitely pick up a Heart Trick Room team like this. Wide Guard is very good right now. Just because imagine all the spread moves coming around from the Genies, Dazzling Gleams from, Flutter Manes and other Hatterenes in general, Earthquake damage. You don't have any flying ground resist here. So Wide Guard is great against, Earthquake stuff. So I like that tech choice on the Armarouge here. But yeah, definitely give this one a go. It's probably the best Heart Trick Room running around right now, has the most results according to my data. So yeah, here it is. All right, now we go into Dondozo here. And again, we just had a video on this, on discussing, how viable Dondozo could be in Regulation D, and it very much is, right? It just all depends on the player and how you build it. And, either you go for that Yawn set, or you can go with the aggressive Tatsugiri set, which is what we have here. So typically, you'll have like Fluttermane, Glamora, plus some other special attacking option. Either this is something like Chiyu, or, another... what's that other thing? It escapes me at the moment. But the whole idea here is you have a couple modes to the team. You have Tornadus, of course, giving speed control for the entire team. And then Urshifu, Fluttermane, and Glamora, they can function within the Tailwind and just deal out a bunch of damage. Glamora is really good with Dondozo, especially in Regulation C. You're just dealing a bunch of chip damage with Mortal Spin. This is a Sash Glamora. Power Gem, another stab move, great into some of the other fire types running around. And then this one has Dazzling Gleam, which is very interesting, right? It's typically, you'll even see like Energy Ball for grass coverage. You might even see like Assault Vest over here, on this type of Glamora. But again, different set, but still more or less the same 6. But again, Dondozo Tatsugiri can function as, you know, an end game option. It could be like a good lead, right? You can go like Dondozo Glimmora as an example of a lead, and then just either swap in the Tatsugiri or swap in something with the Glimmora and just go from there, right? So this is also a Dark Urshifu. Dark Urshifu hasn't seen a whole lot of play, you know, in the early going in Regulation D, but now it's starting to creep back up just because, you know, people need checks to I'm not Ursaluna. Well, that too, but also Cresselia, because, you know, fighting coverage for the Ursaluna, dark coverage for the Cresselia, ban to really pick up the KOs, because without the ban, I think it lives. So now you need the ban, force the Terra against it, and then, you know, from there, just use the Glimmora if it does go for Terra Fairy in that sense, right? But again, Dondozo are very, very strong right now, especially this one with like substitute. So if you want to go for, you know, against Trick Room teams, you can just click sub Dondozo and just hide behind the sub, click order up, you know, keep getting your boosts, and then from there, you know, even Tatsugiri can function outside of Dondozo, give you speed control with Icy Wind, right? You do have Sleep Talk there, you know, that's also nice for Amoonguss plays. But again, another aggressive team. You know, a lot of these teams have Tornadoes, you know, and it's the meta-defining Pokemon right now in Regulation D. Tornadoes within your top 5 just does so much, and it's a very welcome tool, and it's going to be even scarier when Kyogre is legal, because now this Bleak Wind Storm is going to be 100% accurate, and you don't need Rain Dance anymore because you have that behemoth known as Kyogre. All right, let's keep going. All right, next up are these Chalk Team cores, and when we say Chalk, we're talking about like VGC in the past, where it was an acronym for Cresselia, Heatran, Amoonguss, Landorus, and Kangaskhan. Obviously, there's no Kangaskhan over here, but you still have 4 of the main core, you know, with Cresselia here, you know, with Heatran. And again, the whole idea is what you're able to do is support your Heatran by going for like these Trick Room plays, because, you know, Heatran, a relatively slow Pokemon in general, and then a good pivot option for each other, just because Heatran doesn't want to be taking ground type moves. You know, Cresselia has Levitate. This is why sometimes they have Ally Switch or even like Skill Swap to be able to alleviate that weakness, right? But again, sub Heatran really good here. Amoonguss and Landorus, they're also very, very good with each other. Amoonguss, good redirection, good function in Trick Room, able to put things to sleep, so this way you can position better. And then Landorus, Intimidate support for like Heatran, for Fluttermane in general. Landorus, Fluttermane, very, very good with each other, you know, because Fluttermane being weak to steel types, and then Landorus can pressure the steel types with its ground coverage. You know, Landorus also able to, you know, click Earthquake with Cresselia, so good synergy there. And then Urshifu, of course, you know, you just add it to these Chalk cores, and it just puts on a bunch of pressure, especially Mystic Water sets. And then from there, just clean things up in the end game with like Fluttermane, right? So I like Chalk cores. You know, you have Intimidate, you have Redirection support, you have Speed Control, and then you have a breaker on the team with the Urshifu, as well as this Choice Specs Fluttermane, right? And then good support options with Cresselia and Amoonguss, right? You have basically 2 kinds of clerics on this team, with Lunar Blessing and Pollen Puff over here. So you're able to basically make everything survive longer, just because you have the ability to heal them, which is really, really good. Anytime you have like recovery on your Pokemon, they're able to just last longer and do the job that they need to do, right? So I really like Chalk cores. If you like this one, you know, go ahead and use it. Otherwise, feel free to make some changes in some of your flex options. But, you know, Cresselia, Heatran, Amoonguss, Landorus, that is your Chalk core. All right, next up here, we got the Moltres Balance teams, right? Galarian-Moltres is in an interesting spot right now. It does well within the Regulation D meta against a lot of different threats. Like against Rillaboom and Urshifu can do well, because, you know, you have flying coverage. It can also do well against Amoonguss, great into Cresselia, because, you know, you have dark coverage there. And then, you know, you just have to watch out for Fluttermane, right? Which is why Terra Poison, which you see here, is a very common thing in terms of Terra type. It also gets access to Tailwind. So now all these Pokemon, you know, Fluttermane, Heatran, Urshifu, they all appreciate Tailwinds, because now you can outspeed in the mirror matchup. And then Rillaboom and Urshifu fake out plus Surging Strikes. You know, of course, they just provide so much utility. And then Rillaboom, Moltres, like fake out into something like Nasty Plot or Tailwind. You know, to be able to set up is very, very strong. And then Thundurus here just makes the entire team work. It's almost like the one support that Moltres really needs, right? If you're weak to, for example, another Fluttermane, you can have Eerie Impulse, even though they don't have it here, right? If your Urshifu needs to deal more damage, you have Rain Dance, right? If you're scared of Trick Room, you click Taunt, okay? It just does a lot of different things here. Now, you can't have everything. You have to pick your 3 support moves carefully, right? Because you gotta have at least 1 attack move. But Thundurus is really good on teams like this. And then Flutter Mane imprison Trick Room actually. So, you know, you can shut down those Trick Room teams, you know, because you have that. And then Heatran, you know, just makes a lot of this work. Heatran, Moltres, good combination with each other. Heatran, good pivot out of Flutter Mane's Moonblast into Moltres. And also Heatran is also a good pivot out of those ground moves, you know, because Moltres is a flying type. So great synergy with each other. I like them a lot. And then Flutter Mane is pretty much on a lot of these teams, of course, just because it just puts on so much pressure against the opponent. It's, you know, number 1 and then number 2 you have with Urshifu. It's no doubt about it. And this is another good Moltres team. We also made a Moltres team on the channel. Functions differently than this one. We have Iron Hands and Amoonguss there. So, you know, give that one a go. That one has been pretty successful thus far. People have used that one a little bit. They've done okay on the ladder. So, you know, that's why I made it. But this is I would say a better one, right? So just use this one. It has like good results already. So yeah, Galarian-Moltres, I like it a lot. In Scarlet and Violet, I hope to see it do relatively well in the World Championships. But it is one of those smaller A-tier archetypes, right? Maybe not within the top 5, but it's within the top 10 to 15 wands that you can use. So yeah, give it a go and let me know how you do. Okay, so rounding out this video here, we're gonna look at like a Zapdos team, which, you know, Zapdos is one of those Pokemon, like, again, when put on the right team, it just does relatively well, right? And we have a Zapdos team coming up in the channel, and you can pretty much see our GIFs below as to what we were using. It was a really fun team. I enjoyed recording with our Zapdos squad. But here, what's cool about this Zapdos team is that it also has Basculegion on it, which is somewhat of a forgotten dragon a little bit. Yeah, I know there's Urshifu, but you have a lot of checks to Urshifu here. Like, you have Flutter Mane, Zapdos here. You have Terragrass Heatran, which is also kind of nice. So, and then Rocky Helmet and Amoonguss. You can deal with Urshifu in a team like this. So Basculegion, as long as there's no Urshifu, it can really do a lot because ice coverage, especially Ice Shard, is great against Genies, great against Landorus. You really put pressure on another Amoonguss, of course. And then from here, Zapdos, Eerie Impulse. You know, you can make other Flutter Manes just do no damage, so Basculegion is able to take those Moonblasts relatively okay. And then from here, Tailwind support to make the whole team fast. Flutter, Ursh, Heatran, they all appreciate Tailwind. And then, you know, just safety goggles. Getting around Amoonguss is important there. And then, you know, Urshifu, another breaker on your team. Heatran, leftovers, 3 attacks. Flutter Mane, choice specs, big damage, and then support option with Amoonguss, right? And this is from Biophoenix VGC. It's like German player, right? It's been using this team for quite a bit. It's had some good results, which is why I wanted to like feature it in this channel a little bit because I really like it a lot. Just for the balance idea, like you have a dragon type, fairy type, steel type here, and then fire, water, grass core. So you have both of the VGC cores here, and then you just slap on Zapdos here, and with like good support, you know, with this team in general. And it's following like a 2-2-2 format where like you have 2 support Pokemon with Amoonguss and Zapdos. You have 2 offensive threats, 2 physical threats with Urshifu, Basculegion, and then 2 special threats with Heatran and Flutter Mane. So great balance all around. I like it a lot. It's no question as to why this team has done well recently. So if you want to give Zapdos Basculegion a try, I think you should. It's a very, very good squad. All right, this one is like an honorable mention, right? I do also want to talk about at least Sneasler or Rillaboom, or sometimes Indeedee. Like, Sneasler is a good Pokemon, right? We built this in our channel, you know, a while back. But the whole idea, again, is like, you know, with the Grassy Seed boost, you're able to become physically bulky and then, you know, be able to take and deal with Landorus, right? Because, you know, this EV spread is meant to survive Earthquake Landorus with the grassy terrain up. And at the same time, the speed tier allows you to outspeed a max speed Landorus, right? So you can Quick Claw it, not Quick Claw, Dire Claw it, and hopefully inflict that 50% status move. But Acrobatics with the Terra Flying over here is really good. We went with Protect here, but you can definitely put Acrobatics here. But the whole team is aggressive, right? With Tornadus, Sneasler, Rillaboom, you have the fast mode here. You have double fake out pressure, which is really good in trying to help set up this Moltres here, you know, in terms of like nasty plot. Urshifu is a sash here, so a little bit weaker, but you do have Rain Dance to help boost this damage. You are sash, so you get another turn to do something if you get KO'd. And then Heatran over here with Substitute is just able to sit in front of those Trick Room teams and just kind of chill there. right, until the Trick Room is up. And then Galarian-Moltres is something I like on teams like this. You can even like consider Zapdos, but I wanted something to break the Cresselia because we don't really have a whole lot other than like U-turn Rillaboom, and that's not enough sometimes. So I wanted that in terms of the, trying to set up. And then it can do a lot into a lot of different matchups, like we said with Moltres already. But I really wanted to just mention Sneasler. I feel like it has a lot of good potential, has results already, has good results with Indeedee as well, because it's the same concept with like an item consumption with like Unburden, right? Where your speed gets doubled. So really, really cool Pokemon. I wanted to at least fit it in here, even though I didn't necessarily put it in my top 10. It probably could be in the top 10. It's very subjective, of course. But I didn't want to wrap up the video here by not at least mentioning it, okay? Now, are there other good viable archetypes within the Regulation D format? Yes, okay? Do I think they're in the top 10? No. Do I think you can win a tournament with them? Yes. For example, like, again, Sneasler, right? I don't think it's in the top 10, but I think it's very, very good. I think it can win a lot of tours if you play it correctly. Not even necessarily this team, but like just the archetype in general with Sneasler, Rillaboom, and then 4 support, 4 balance options, right? But hopefully you enjoyed our list. Again, I did my best to like compile our data and just see like what are like the best teams running around right now. So hopefully I'm able to help you a little bit with your team building if you're trying to go to a premier challenge, or just trying to get ready for Worlds in general. Hopefully this gave you a couple of ideas to consider or watch out for, right? And again, if you want to build any of these teams, or if you want to build something of your own and you need help with it, we have coaching on the channel. Again, if you take a look and do the tier 3 sub to the channel, which is in the video description below and in the comment section, you're able to sign up with tier 3, right? And then we organize a Discord call one-on-one. You can message me on Discord, and then we get you that team that you need to be able to compete within the format, right? So that'll be it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.